Live from your mom's basement, it's Midnight's Edge After Dark Live.
Aren't we all just living in the basement, though? Hey, everybody, what's going on? Happy Monday! Happy President's Day if you're from the USA. And if you're from anywhere else in the world, hope you had a good Monday. It's Midnight's Edge After Dark. On today's show, we have special guest, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, live from the Imaginarium.
The Robservatory.
And he stole that jacket from Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think.
Yeah.
I like the second. I pulled Imaginarium, just like, what did they call that on Community? Oh, Imaginarium. Okay. A Dreamatorium, actually.
The dream. I like that. I was going to call it the Imaginarium, but now that I have that stupid affect. Well, it's not stupid, but everything is Rob something. Somebody actually said they're being Robjective about their opinion. I thought that was amazing.
Oh, I like that.
It's a thing. It's a hashtag now. Robjective. Yeah. Joining me always is Mr. Tom Connors.
Good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time it is where you're at. It's Midnight's Edge After Dark, so it's dark here.
Yes, and joining us actually from his homeland, where it's quite late for him, but he's joining us here anyway. We have the boss man, Andre.
Greetings, everyone, and to all my friends in the state, happy President's Day. Assuming that is the customary greeting, I honestly have no idea. But happy President's
Most
Day.
people don't even realize it's President's Day till they're like, ah, shit, there is no mail
President's
today.
Day? What?
Exactly.
I know. No mail today.
Yeah. And that voice you hear is, of course, our resident YouTube harpy. She is an Emmy, an ESPY, a Tony, a Bammy, a BAFTA, a SAGgy, a WGA. She's an Earl and an OBE, which makes her an earlobe. Miss Mecca Random.
What's a saggy? I keep
SAG.
That doesn't sound nearly as good as I think it should.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That depends on individual preference.
Like I said, if you get a SAG award, or is it a SAGgy? That's okay. So, gentlemen, and thanks a lot, Tom. Okay, so where do we open the discussion?
That's what you get for that. You tried.
I'm not used to being heckled in front of the audience.
That's great. I love those too much. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. So where do we start? Sonic had a big weekend. When all is said and done, it looks like it's going to make $70 million at the box office. And if you've seen our video that we just put up, this was absolutely the right call to make in this situation. At least in my eyes, that they go back and they fix the CGI. I saw it. Mecca saw it. Tom, did you see it?
Not yet.
Rob, did you see it?
I have not.
Okay. It's not.
Well, just forget about the boss man. He saw it.
I saw it. I saw it. I saw it, and I loved it. It was. I will say that when watching it, you have to be mentally prepared that this is a movie that's written for the intellectual level of a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So don't expect too much in way of character development or proper plot resolution or anything like that. But it's a very, very fun time. I would like to add one more thing though. Rob, as in Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yes.
I saw you on the John Campea show talking about the movie and whether or not there was anything to this crazy conspiracy theory that this whole thing was planned and orchestrated, that they meant to put out this model the whole time. I can confirm with 100% certainty that that was no such plan. I can say that because I had an inside source involved with the production. If you check back our videos from a year and a half ago, I actually revealed plot details that got confirmed with 100% accuracy by the movie itself. What I was told is that there's absolutely no truth to any plan. They were always planning to go with that original rejected design, and they were freaking out over the reaction to it. The only one that weren't freaking out were Sega, because they loved the backlash, and they really loved that the studio decided to go with a design closer to what they wanted the whole time. Sega still aren't happy because Sonic still has two eyes. They wanted him to just have one. You know, like the one that's kind of like separated into two.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon
That
uni
conspiracy
eye.
theory, no truth to that.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that today on the show, and what Hollywood doesn't work that way. When you're putting out a movie, like you said, I think the to me, I could tell. I saw footage of this at CinemaCon last April, and CinemaCon, for those of you who don't know, is a convention for all of the theater owners that own theaters all over the world. The big theater chains, a lot of the independent theater chains, and it happens in April. And what the studios do is they bring out a lot of their stars and a lot of clips from their upcoming movies for the rest of the year and even into the next year. And they show either extended, it's not just trailers, they usually show some kind of footage and extended material. And so I saw some of Sonic a year ago, well, at last April, almost a year ago. And I thought it didn't look great. Obviously, Jim Carrey was giving a classic Jim Carrey performance. He looked like he was having a good time, but it was the Sonic design that gave me pause. And I was like, I understand what they were going for. They were going for trying to make a Sonic character that looked a little bit more realistic, that you might believe could exist in the real world. But I felt it didn't work. That it's okay that it's a video game character. Sorry, my dog's barking. As a video game
It's
character,
cookie time.
I know. As a video game character, when I start talking, I don't let him in the look Gilbert grabbing. Look at this. Come on, dude.
Well, at least he's making a full-on cameo.
Come on, man. Why do you got to be so rude like that?
Oh, it's sweet.
Oh,
We love doggies.
Right, buddy. Yes, I'm on the air, dude. Okay.
Usually it's mine barking, so don't feel bad, Robert. Not at all.
So Gilbert, I know. Gilbert, he's such a great dog. He's too damn smart, though. But when I saw that, I understood what they were going for, but it didn't work for me. Like when I was looking at it, it's not like it was the compositing was Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something like that. And so the design seemed odd, even though Jim Carrey was always playing it over the top. And when I heard that they were going to redesign, I thought that was actually a shrewd move because there was the backlash, and I just don't think it worked. And I think, people go, well, how can that be? But when you're going for something like when you're shooting live action and you're looking at the effects plates coming in, and it is possible to, and that's one of the great things about a character. They had time. They pushed the release date and they did something which is pretty unheard of, and they went in and redesigned the character. And I think they won. They knew what I wish other filmmaking franchises could do what they did, although it would be even more expensive. But I thought that was really great what they did, and the box office over this 4-day weekend here in America at $70 million proves that it was the right thing to do. And I like to see when creatives make decisions that are rewarded with financial success. I think that's good.
Well, and I think kind of what Andre's editorial was getting to was, if this was left to Sony, they wouldn't have changed it. They would have left it.
Right.
They wouldn't have done anything.
It's Paramount.
Yeah, now it is. But I'm saying if you had the two different studios, if you left it up to Tom Rothman, there's no way he would have spent the extra money and time to fix that. He'd been like, fuck you, leave the damn thing the way it is. It's a stupid hedgehog. Who cares?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I pointed out in my editorial, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, yeah.
The irony over the fact that this is a movie that Tom Rothman rejected, right? And that it was sent into turnaround. And this was a movie that was basically made by Blur and Tim Miller, just like Deadpool. And who picked it up? Who was the one who made it happen? That was Jim Giannopoulos.
Yep.
He was the one who made Deadpool happen, and he was the one who made Sonic happen, because he's at Paramount now, and he was the one who picked it up. So I just thought that was like some funny Hollywood irony that I'm surprised not many more have picked up on. This is Deadpool all over again, literally in every detail, almost.
Right. And what that gives me hope for is you know, because I mean, I'm somewhat of a Sonic fan. I'm like, yeah, okay, not nearly as much as Andre, and I'm probably more in the league of like Robert and stuff, to where it's just like, yeah, it's this thing out there that it's a kids movie, you know. Mecca was really into it because she's into video games, and Rob's
No,
probably.
I didn't want to see it.
Oh, you didn't want to see it? I thought you were into the video games. I thought you were.
Movie.
I thought you were into the video games, though.
No, I hated the Sonic video.
I didn't know. I'm sorry. I just assumed you did.
Okay,
well, and Rob, I was gonna say, I'm sure he was too old for it at the time to give a crap either.
Oh, well, my nephew had a Sega Genesis, and
I mean, I played the original 2 games, but I don't remember the third game that much.
They're fun, you know.
Death Ray Bargain Bin sent us $5. I think Sonic's success will be a sign that Redstone is listening to fans this way forward, and that goes with what I was about to say. So I'm kind of glad you sent us that super chat there, Death Ray Bargain Bin, and I love your name as always. Yeah, I think in going forward between this and Bumblebee, I hope it's a good sign for things like Ninja Turtles, that they will strive to listen to the fans and what the fans want. And I hope that's the reason why we've been hearing that, they're thinking about doing, an adult oriented show on Netflix alongside the kids stuff when it comes to like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, which I think is a brilliant idea. I mean, I don't know if you guys think that's a sign of things to come as far as like Paramount really trying to become the fan friendly kind of company going forward.
Are they doing Ninja Turtles
well?
as well?
Nickelodeon owns Ninja Turtles, which is under Viacom, so it's all
okay. Cool.
Yeah, one thing though, I always say I've often said that design by committee rarely works. Design by internet committee probably will never work, but this is a case where you have an established character. Anyone over the age of 30 knows what the character looks like. And with technology, there's no reason you can't make him look like how he looks like in the game, in the movie. And I understand, like you said, Robert, I understand the idea. How would Sonic look in the real world? But at the same time, that was pretty gruesome. I mean, it just didn't translate well. But one of the things I keep thinking though, I mean, there must be this whole thing in Hollywood now. I don't see this decision sitting well with a lot of other studios, because now there's going to be this. I can't help but think there's this thinking, wow, if the fans are right, that means we're all wrong. Especially in the last few years, where you have a certain director who made a certain movie, who pretty much told who antagonized fans on social media, and
who actually happened to talk to R&B this weekend, I think, on Twitter, which is weird.
He did.
Yeah. But the whole thing is, like I said, you're playing in someone else's sandbox, so you have to be respectful of what came before. I always say I stop short of turning movie making into like a de facto all-star ballot, where you pencil in your favorite actor into a certain role, because if we did that, then Idris Elba would be in everything. I would say. Yeah. Idris Elba should be Green Lantern, Batman, and Jesus. Where do I vote? Yeah.
No, so. I think you're right about that, because one of the things about Hollywood is there's so much money involved and the stakes are so high. And when I first started out a long time ago, I worked at Warner Brothers. I worked for the senior vice president of physical production, Bill Young. And he oversaw the actual physical production of all the movies that Warner Brothers made. But what was interesting was, even though the money was being spent through our department, we had no say over what movies got made. So there was the executive, the creative executives, and the other senior vice presidents that met with all the writers, and they decided what films would get made. They developed projects. Our department had nothing to do with that, even though they were all in the same executive building. And yet our department was in charge of the physical production, overseeing the day-to-day physical production of every movie. And the way the department worked was, it was Bill Young who ran the department, and then there were 3 executive production managers underneath Bill that would split up. They would oversee, like if Warner Brothers was making 15 movies at a time, each executive production manager had a movie they were overseeing. And then I worked for one of those people. I worked for a guy named Kurt Newman, whose dad actually directed the original The Fly and Rocket Ship XM. But what was frustrating is when we would see things, or when my boss would see things that were problematic. For instance, I was there through the entire production of the movie Bonfire of the Vanities. They even wrote a book on the making of that movie called The Devil's Candy. And whatever went on, like if my boss wanted to put his foot down and like, no, Brian De Palma, you can't spend $200,000 for one shot, then a producer would go over my boss's head and just call the head of the studio and say, Brian wants this, and they would give it to him. You know, there was you'd think it wouldn't work that way, but it did. And a lot of the time, and that movie I think is a collection of not great decisions by a filmmaker that I really admire. But there's a lot of times where people with the best intentions, they really have made choices that aren't necessarily good choices. Like, for instance, the idea in Star Trek of trying to elevate Lieutenant Uhura's character so it becomes Kirk, Spock, and Uhura instead of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. You know, which is, I understand everyone's heart's in the right place by doing that, but it disrupts the very DNA of the franchise that you're working in and ultimately makes your movie less good. So everyone is trying to do the right thing, but there aren't a lot of people that always know what's best. And yet no one will admit it, because if you come out and say, you know, I think I'm wrong, we should do it this way, that's weakness. And, you know, people are terrified that they're going to be punished for any mistakes that they make. And I think when it comes to what's interesting is when it's boots on the ground and you're actually making a movie, it's too late to admit mistakes by then, because the money spigot is flowing and you are spending money every single day. And as everyone knows, you can actually quantify how much money is being spent down to the last second. You can find out how much each second on a movie set costs while you're shooting or in production. And I think it's not to be taken lightly what the decision they made to redesign Sonic. That was a really ballsy thing to do, or much less even announce that they were doing it, because that there was a lot of people admitting that, yes, we made a mistake, and then they were going to have to spend a lot more money to fix it. But because I think Blur was the major effects vendor, they probably figured we can do this, you know, and they were able to do it. And I think it's not something you're going to see in Hollywood very often, because that would require multiple people to have to admit they made a mistake, and you never see that.
You know, I picture when let's just take a flop. I'm not bagging on Birds of Prey, but let's just take Birds of Prey as an example of when something goes wrong, or even Solo. I picture kind of Hollywood as being a place where there's board meetings. It said that nobody wants to admit to a mistake, and they all get together in a boardroom somewhere. What happened? Well, gee, I don't know what happened. All of our tracking and all of our analytics said this was going to be a hit. It's Dave's fault. Yeah, fire Dave. You know,
I have an idea of how it's going to be, because, as many of you know, I am from the world of finance. That's what I do full time. I'm a full time financial analyst by trade. And in the world of finance, it's like you always have to cover your ass. And
Yeah.
I think this is the same in Hollywood, because, like in investment banking, Hollywood is really investment banking. It's just that the commodity in question is filmmaking. But that's what I do. When I do my analysis, I basically just treat it as any other kind of investment, because that's what it is to me. It's just, instead of investing in sugar or oil or spice melange or what have you not, you're investing in filmmaking. And what's true in any kind of investments like that, it's all about covering your ass. You all have to be able to say that, okay, maybe this didn't work, but it's not my fault, because I did this, and this, and we had this, and this, so I'm blame-free of this. Who is to blame? Not my fault, not my problem, but not me. And I think everyone is kind of like that. And that, you correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but I think that that's very much the way it is. And that is what impressed me so much with what Blur and Paramount did here, that they actually admitted that maybe we got this wrong. And that's why I was so happy to see this movie do well for a studio that has someone that goes and takes responsibility like the directors did and said, you know what, we heard you loud and clear. This isn't going to fly. We thought we had the right idea, but we don't. We're going to change it, and they got rewarded for it massively. I'm very happy to see that. I'm not saying that all studios should cater to the whims of all fans who can't agree between themselves. Not saying that at all. But in this one particular case, and there are others like it, they were headed down the wrong path, and they made the necessary moves, and I hope someone gets a major, major pat on the back for it.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that, but I think what's even more important is to remember that they didn't think they were going down the wrong path. You know, they had made this movie where they thought, yeah, we did the job, you know, because Sonic probably had to go through many different designs, and the one that they had picked was something that had come through lots of development, so people had analyzed it and looked at it, and they went for that design. And it was only when fans caught a glimpse of it, I think one of the reasons that they were able to do this and they were able to fix it was because nobody saw the potential backlash from the fans. Everybody thought what they had done worked. They all thought that. And I think, honestly, everybody was taken by surprise by this backlash. Because when you're making a movie and you're trying your hardest, no one ever thinks that what they've done is wrong. Otherwise, they would change it. So when you've made a film and it's that far down and you think, okay, we've made this Sonic movie, it might be a little outdated, but we're still moving forward with it. And when they found out that people didn't like it, I really do believe that they were all taken aback. And somebody, whether it was the directors, somebody said, well, we can fix this. You know, and it's probably a unique situation because everybody was unanimously in agreement that they were moving forward together on this. When they found out that there was this fan backlash, I really believe everybody was shocked.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and in that in being shocked together, what happens then is that everybody can make the decision to fix it, and it's no one's fault. They're like, you know what? We can fix this, which is how all problems should be looked at. You don't blame people. You just fix the problem. And one of the things about movie making, and I keep talking about this online and stuff, is that I've always been very, I find being on movie sets very inspiring, because you have people from all different walks of life doing all different kinds of disciplines, whether you've got the camera department, your grip and electric department, you've got costume and hair and makeup, and there's all these different departments that are doing very disparate things on set, but everybody's working toward a common goal, and people aren't on movie sets unless they're really good at their jobs. You don't ever see people, like you hear sometimes, oh, this person got hired because of nepotism. Well, people who can't hack it on studio film sets, they're gone. So you're dealing with the best of the best, usually, when these are films are being made, especially studio pictures. So it's a pretty cool thing to actually be a part of. And I really think it's certainly when they showed us the clips of Sonic at CinemaCon last year, the studio was way behind it. They're like, we're behind this movie. Jim Carrey was back in his Ace Ventura, The Mask mode. And I think people were really excited about the movie, and they had thought that they knew it was a family movie. They really thought that they had nailed it. And it was I was like, I didn't quite know what to make of it when I saw it. But when the first trailer dropped and the backlash started to happen, even I was like, wow, I never would have thought that people would have been this attached to the design of Sonic. And it was really interesting to watch them. They didn't waffle. They just they heard and they fixed, and they won.
I will say, though, that upon seeing the movie, I kind of understood the design. Because the initial design was of someone more innocent, childlike, and a little bit more vulnerable. And without going too much into spoilers, that's exactly what Sonic is. Sonic, I can't pronounce it, sorry. Sonic is in this movie. So the design is the right design for Sonic, absolutely. And the movie is entertaining. But I think that given the kind of movie they were going for, I absolutely understand why they went with that design and why it was designed that way. It was designed in order to emote sympathy for a lowly abandoned child, basically. So I understand why they went with it. And yeah, I agree, they were completely taken aback by the backlash. But given that, they made the right decision all in all. Maybe not the one that was entirely correct given the movie they were making, but it still worked, and they had every reason to behind it. Jim Carrey fired on all cylinders, and the movie worked out, I think, probably better than they anticipated at the box office. So, more power to them.
All right. And they're saying you're a little quiet again in the chat, Andre. But yeah, on the other hand, though, Birds of Prey, though it didn't take a huge nosedive, like it only went down, what was it, 45%? 40 some percent in there, which normally wouldn't be a bad drop, but the movie didn't make any money to begin with. So that's not boding too well for that film. Did you get to see that monstrosity, Robert?
Oh, yes. I finally saw Birds of Prey. And I think my problems with the film were more conceptual than necessarily with the execution. We talked about this too I think I was talking about it with John, but the fact that the Joker wasn't a part of this movie, I mean, this movie was all about leaving a toxic relationship. And I mean, ultimately, that's how the film sort of began. It was predicated on that. And it would have been nice to see that relationship before she left it, kind of a thing. I mean, if that makes, excuse me, if that makes any sense.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Because that's what I was saying too, is Joker should have been the bad guy. If you really wanted to be, a pro-feminine storyline, it should have been about Harley Quinn coming out from under the shadow of the Joker. When she says that line at the end, near the end there, where she goes, everybody's so scared of the Joker, but I'm the one they should be afraid of. That should have been the whole movie right there.
No, I agree, and I think that also, if you're gonna call a movie Birds of Prey based on the comics and everything, you assume it's going to be a women on a mission movie, and we didn't really get a lot of that until the end of the film, really. And I was sort of in my mind a little disappointed about that. And I would have liked to have seen those characters relate more to the overall storyline that was being told. And it seemed a little half-baked, the whole thing. But it was well made. I just think that, again, tonally and story-wise, it just didn't entirely work. I thought Margot Robbie gave it her all,
Well, needless to say, I don't think it's going to really, it might barely make its money back, if that, at this point, is what it's looking like. What do you think, Andre?
I think it's too early to call, because for one thing, we do not know the exact break-even point. We do not know the full negative cost. We know there were reshoots. We don't know how extensive, so we'll never know. And I honestly don't think it matters. They're going to see right away that they're not going to be making any money on this movie. Like, the money they make is going to be so little that it might as well not have made anything back, because the investors will not be getting their money's worth, no matter how you look at it. And we may never see the Birds of Prey again, but Harley Quinn herself already has a lease on life in The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, and that probably should be really cool because it's James Gunn. So So yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. I thought the movie was frustrating because it could have been so good, it could have been so fun, but it just wasn't there. It just had like these little things that detracted too much from it, which was frustrating. I wanted to like it.
You know, I always say about a movie like Birds of Prey, I don't hate it, but it doesn't give me any reason to like it either.
I'm starting to hate it more and more. I think about it. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah. It wasn't so bad watching it. But...
Yeah, that's never a good sign. But it's like it came off. Yeah, it came off as I wouldn't want to say confusing. It just did like Tom said. It made no. Whoever said it made no sense. Robert, you said it should be about the women on a mission. If it's called Birds of Prey, and you don't get any reference to that until the very end. They called themselves the Birds of Prey. I'm like, yeah, a little late to go there. And it did. And the whole thing of, again, you talk about verisimilitude. I don't buy for a moment that little 110-pound Margot Robbie is going to take down a bunch of thugs.
Not only that, an entire police force.
Yeah, and yeah. She's walking through the she's walking, through the police department like the freaking Terminator. Yeah, that ain't happening. With a beanbag stun gun.
No, the movie was just it had too many, flashbacks, and wait a minute, we're gonna stop the movie entirely to send you off on this character's backstory now. Like, oh no. Hey, remember that other backstory? Well, this is how that other backstory was related to this backstory. Oh, stop. And it was a little too, I didn't like the R rating stuff. They could have toned it down and made it a little brighter and a little more fun. I think that really missed the mark for me. I don't know, anyone else?
No, I was just working with Andre here. We're trying to figure out why he's so quiet.
Okay.
But no, I mean, and that's the thing is, what kind of competition does it got coming up here? When does Black Widow come out?
April?
May, I believe.
Okay, so then what's the next big movie?
April?
What's the next big
James Bond, I think.
Is it?
Bond, yeah. No Time to
Bond.
Die. Not to monopolize the conversation, but I always remember a Bond theme being a big deal, and it should be something that's memorable, it's something that stands out. This Billie Eilish song "No Time to Die" is really bad, or at least I think it's bad. So
no, it's bad. It's bad. I listened to it and I had to keep asking, is it on yet? Did it start? 40 seconds in, and I'm like turning up my volume. Oh, it's going. All right, she's just a boring wannabe PJ Harvey ripoff. She sounds like a teenager on her mommy's Xanax. That's all it is to me, and I just can't deal with that breathy, mopey, emo teenage stuff.
Well, breathy and mopey and is the big affect for teens now, I guess. I don't know. But I don't know. What is the selection process that Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson employ for a Bond theme? I mean, Robert, do you know anything about that or not?
Well, I mean, to play a little devil's advocate, she did clean up at the Grammy Awards, and she is one of the most popular singers in the world today. And I will say this, I was curious because I didn't know much about her until I heard the single "Bad Guy," which I thought was one of the best pop singles I'd heard in a long time.
I had to agree with that.
Yeah. So I looked into her, and her brother Phineas, who produces with her, they have a classical music, choral training, music theory. They come from a musical family, and they've really been immersed in music making for the majority of their lives. And there's an interesting Rolling Stone video that they put out about the making, where Billy and Phineas take you, Billy, like I know them, but the Eilish siblings take you through the creation of that song "Bad Guy" and how they produced it and what they did and how they made it. And it's pretty impressive. And clearly, they know their stuff. and they know what they're doing. And she does have, I mean, one of the biggest followings of anyone on the planet. So I think it was a shrewd choice to pick her to do the song. But that said, I don't necessarily know if, I mean, she's 18 years old, and I can't imagine Billie Eilish was a huge James Bond fan before she got this job.
She probably was. And honestly, I'm kind of disappointed with the song too. I mean,
and I have to say,
white dude.
I mean, I thought that the song, to me, I really hated. I'm a huge James Bond fanatic. I have been my whole life. The franchise has been one of my favorite things since I was a little kid, and the Bond themes. I'm one of the dissenters. I loved Alicia Keys, and I loved Alicia Keys, and I loved Jack White's theme for Quantum of Solace, Another Way to Die, and people think that that's like one of the worst Bond tunes ever, and I'm like, what? And now Chris Cornell's Bond theme, I Know Your Name, is considered better, but and I did like Skyfall, Adele's theme, but I hated Sam Smith's The Writings on the Wall, even though it won an Academy Award, the theme to Spectre. I was like, oh my God, because a James Bond theme should sort of encapsulate in a song what you're going to get from the rest of the movie. You know, it should have at least punch, and it should be exciting. And the thing is, this idea that they've taken Daniel Craig down this sort of strange road. When Casino Royale began, it was a retcon, and we were seeing how he achieved his 00 status, and he was rough around the edges. He wasn't the Bond that we knew, and he was rough and tumble and brutal. And he wasn't beyond just capping some dude if they deserved it. And it's so strange that over the course of the Craig Bonds, they've turned him into this like emo, oh, woe is me, I keep losing my loves, and I feel so terrible. And I don't understand why they have done that. The great thing about James Bond is James Bond is a sensualist. He's on the edge of death every minute of his life. So he sleeps with the most beautiful women. He drinks the best champagne at the perfect temperature. He eats the best caviar. He drives the best cars. He fires the best guns. And that's the whole idea of Bond as this world-saving wish fulfillment fantasy is built into the character's DNA when Ian Fleming was writing him in the time that he was created, you know, in the 50s and the Cold War. And to turn him into this sort of mopey, inwardly, I mean, from the opening of from Skyfall, where Moneypenny has to shoot him off the top of a moving train, and he goes to hang out on a beach because he's moping around playing drinking games with scorpions, and it's just like, wait, what? I mean, Bond was mid-mission, so M had to take a shot. Bond would understand that, but ever since at the end of Casino Royale, they've tried to turn him into this character that's, I'm feeling. So I don't think it's Billie Eilish's fault. I think it's what Wilson and Broccoli have done with the character and turn him into this guy who's reluctant. He's like this reluctant hero, and we never got a movie where James Bond is peak Bond. We went from Casino Royale to its immediate sequel, Quantum of Solace, where he finally got revenge over everybody that caused him. And then we move right into Skyfall, where he's mopey Bond, and he fails the whole movie. I mean, James Bond just fails until M gets killed in the ultimate failure. So Skyfall is a movie where James Bond does not succeed. And who wants that? And then Spectre, no one succeeded in the movie and made a ridiculous film that satisfied nobody. And you wonder why we never got a movie where Daniel Craig is the badass, fully formed James motherfucking Bond, where he can kick ass and save the world. And I just think it's strange. It's odd to me.
They hinted at that at the end of Skyfall when Ralph Fiennes or Ray
Fiennes, yeah.
Ray Fiennes, where he said, "All right, let's get to work then." Oh, and you thought to yourself, "Oh, here we go. Okay, finally." And then you followed up with Spectre, a movie which I refuse to own on Blu-ray. Because it was boring. It was absolutely boring. It was like It was like it was like a basketball team playing a spread offense where they're just trying to kill the clock. I can't help but think that there's this, and you've said this repeatedly, they are embarrassed. By they, I mean Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson and everybody involved are embarrassed by the legacy of the Bond franchise, and now they are trying to overcorrect it. And someone recently asked me what I would do if I was in charge of the Bond franchise. I said, you kidding me? I would fill it with so much drinking and violence and casual sex and innuendo and just over-the-top action, car chases and exotic locations, and it'd be either be hailed as the greatest Bond movie ever or would kill the franchise. And we need to get back to, and I can't help but think they're scared of the backlash in the Me Too era. And that has them apologizing for it every step of the way.
I think you're right about that. I mean, the character of James Bond is facing death at every moment. And I keep saying the man is a sensualist. He's not going to apologize for human appetites where he's one step away from dying.
Yeah, this is his job. This is his 9 to 5.
Right.
Why would you apologize?
Well, I what's very interesting to me is this idea of where we are culturally. The idea of the Me Too movement, these things had to happen. However, being able to complain about all manner of things is actually a luxury. It's a luxury to live in a society where we can complain. Most of human history was terrible. Humanity lived in squalor. We lived, it was brutal. It was horrific. History was not none of us want to live 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. No one. And we live now, and I keep saying this, we live at one of the best times ever to be alive. And yet people are constantly finding things to complain about. Well, James Bond is preserving the way of life so we can have a Me Too movement, so we can live. If James Bond didn't do what he does, Hugo Drax would have poisoned the environment and everybody would be living in a space colony, or Carl Stromberg with his Atlantis under the sea would have caused a nuclear winter and would have only had perfect people living at the bottom of the ocean. The American economy would have been wrecked by Auric Goldfinger, who irradiated our gold supply. The list goes on and on and on. And if James Bond didn't do what he does, there would be no Me Too movement because we'd all be fucking dead. And the idea that this character is now supposed to abide, the whole point is that James Bond, he never abided by the rules of polite society because he doesn't have to, because polite society wouldn't exist unless he did his job. And the fact that he's unapologetic about his desires or what he does, it's what gets him through the day. And to try and turn him into this sort of paragon of virtue, I think you're right. I think the greatest James Bond movie would have him smoke cigarettes, unrepentantly drink. And by the way, drink, and it doesn't impair his job. He doesn't get sloppy drunk. He drinks enough. He knows his limits. He doesn't miss, like watching him go into when M's going, well, it's not a problem if you admit that you've missed a step. It's like, no, James Bond does not miss a step. And if somebody gets the drop on him, he comes back and he kicks ass. He is a fearsome force of nature. And the fact that they've tried to tame that character. I remember when Living Daylights came out and he only slept with one woman because we are in the midst of the AIDS epidemic. They talked about Miriam Dabo, the character in that film. He only sleeps with one woman. And well, we have to be respectful of that. I'm like, you know what? Not when your life is on the line, you don't. When you're facing death at any moment, the concerns that the rest of society has are not your concerns, because you live outside of society in order to protect society. And that's what everyone's always loved about the Bond franchise. And this idea that they're leaning in to more political correctness and to be more mindful of people's feelings is the problem with our entire civilization. We'll be talking about, people will be telling you how they feel while the sun goes supernova because they didn't bother to take care of what was really important.
Well, that hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Not a band account since it's $1.99. Got to do these real quick. Sorry. Sorry, it took us so long to get to him as well. Harley is a feminist role model. Hashtag LGBTQIA. Hashtag woman with an X. Okay. Thank you so much. Not a band account. Sister Harrow says it's an Australian $5, Rob.
Sister Harrow. Oh, geez, yeah. I have a special sound effect just for Sister Harrow. Sister Harrow, I'm loving the heaps of Matrix 4 sets, vids online. It creates hype. What do you guys and Mecca think on set location photos released to give a hype? I think it's.
We got more than photos. We got video.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
There's like 3 or 4 videos out there now. Yeah. So they're heavy into production on this, guys. It's happening.
Yeah. But one thing I always point out though to Robert is that I was reading the original Moonraker on when I was waiting to get on a plane, and it says right there in the first chapter, the mandatory retirement age at MI6 is 45, and he didn't think he was going to make it to that.
Right.
Yeah, and oh God, the one thing I keep saying. Oh, and he got more set photos. Hold on, geez, I'm getting distracted here. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's the newest ones.
Yeah. But back to Bond, though. The last thing, and we've covered this before, the last thing we both want to see is 007 being a spectator in his own movie, being a side character, being a guest star in his own movie. And there's a lot of people I see, and I see this on Twitter all the time. I'm not a fan, but, and again, it's the birds of prey problem, is that you don't know who you're making this movie for. And like you, I think you said this one time.
It's for the Prius crowd, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, look how sad you are. I'm telling you,
I used to be able to go fast. I can't know.
I'm playing Grand Theft Auto Online. The one car I always own is the DB5.
That fucking hedgehog goes faster than I do.
That picture looks like he's got his wife's tampon in his pocket.
Actually,
I got 3 of them.
Like really, like she had me hold this.
Actually, you know what?
She's wearing a dress and can't put it in her purse.
I read something online. I don't know how much credence this gives, but they actually discussed Lashana Lynch saying somewhere in the film that she needed a tampon as a way of humanizing her character, making her relatable toward a female audience.
Well, they had one in the Harley Quinn movie.
Oh God! And again, this is a case of they don't know who they're making this movie for. They are chasing this imaginary audience. Women already go see Bond movies because they thought Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, Sean Connery was handsome. This is like a little piece of that. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I watched this roundtable, this Entertainment Weekly roundtable with the cast. And I like what Lashana Lynch had to say about her character, but I would be curious that what does a woman when she becomes a 00, what is the difference? I mean, there's got to be a quality that a woman has that makes her. I mean, I would think that I've met women that I know who could be lethal. I'm like, man, you are devious. And I would love to see, what does femininity bring to the 00 role that makes a woman even perhaps more dangerous than Bond? And I would love to see them lean into that, because I like the idea of female 00 agents. But you know what? I mean, does she use her sexuality to get close to her marks? I mean, I would think
clearly not. I've seen her costumes.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where how transcendent would that be? If she was a sensualist just like Bond, and she fucked the dude she wanted to fuck, she drank as much as she wanted to drink, she smoked as much as she wanted to drink or smoke. I mean, she did whatever she would, and she unrepentantly busted a cap in dudes' heads. I mean, I would like to see that, because that's the job of a 00. That's what the 00 does.
Odds
And
on her dying or getting kidnapped within the first 15 minutes of the movie.
yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I hope that I would love to see them lean into the fact that it doesn't matter what gender you are as a 00 agent, you have to be ruthless, you have to be able to move fast, you have to be able to make split-second decisions about who lives and who dies, and if that is your job, then you live your life accordingly. You're not worried about #MeToo. You don't have time for that. If somebody starts throwing that in your face, you shoot them and get rid of them because they're impeding your ability to do your job. And I would love to see that. I hope they lean, but they won't. No. You know, they won't.
Me too. Oh, you want one too? Okay, bang. Anyway,
yeah,
Sister Arrow says something I've said a long time now. Bond has lost its 60s. Give it to Tarantino. That's what I said. Set it back in the 1960s and have Quentin Tarantino direct it. I bet you it'd be the best Bond movie we've had in years.
We kind of already have an idea of what a female Bond would look like. It's Natasha Romanoff. I mean, there's been, I mean, there's, and if you've read those Daredevil comics and read a lot of the old Marvel comics, I mean, she's essentially what a female Bond would be like.
I'll do you one better. Red Sparrow.
I didn't see Red Sparrow, but I'll take your word for
it. Well,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I loved Red Sparrow. Yeah. That's the female Bond right there.
There you go.
Someone that will use their femininity and sexuality to achieve their goals, in addition to kick ass.
Adam Mulford sends us $5. Says CIA nicknames are widows. Think Catwoman 70s version. They use sexuality as a weapon. I mean, that's what we've said a long time ago. Just make a new character. You don't need to take Bond and make it a woman.
Exactly.
You don't need to keep changing Bond.
Here's the thing. Even women want sexy characters, because this is another reason that I got into in some of my Birds of Prey stuff. Women want to dress up as the sexy characters. We want to, look at some of these sexy characters sometimes because we can appreciate the beauty and we can say, hey, she's got a nice ass. I want to get my ass to the gym and have her ass. And that's kind of how women are sometimes. There's no reason to pander so much to the, don't look at me, I'm going to me too you sort of female, because they're not going to see these movies. And I think Birds of Prey prove that.
Hey, Rob, you got the Canadian noise ready, eh?
Hey.
That means no.
No. I'll have it by the next one. DCB Titan, Canadian $10. Talking about Bond's view of... thanks a lot, Tom.
That's me with you right now. You're Ryan.
It just reminds me of the joke, President Clinton getting a BJ in the Oval Office. If he keeps his finger off the button, I'd happily pay for the hoe. Okay. Yeah. See the kind of abuse I had to put up with around here, Rob? See? I should have never sent him that video. He's gonna.
I did that one.
The one I sent you.
You did a few of them. I did that one and the Bart one, and I did this one. So
yeah, okay.
You did the rest.
All right. Where were we in discussion before we got derailed? I don't remember. That's
Bond but I know Rob and Rob is in Robert Meyer Burnett, and Andre may or may not have read a certain script that takes place in a very dry area with lots of sand. Anakin hates sand.
Arizona?
Yes, Arizona. It's the sequel to Raising Arizona, Rob.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to. I don't have much to say about this one, so I'll just.
It's about the kid selling her parents. That's what it's about.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I'm very excited. It's my most eagerly awaited movie of the year.
Nicolas Cage is back.
Is he?
I don't know. I'm just no. I think most people have got a good idea of what we're talking about. I think maybe.
Well, it's a very, very desolate, dry, sandy place in the very, very distant future now, isn't it? And it is the movie that I'm the most excited for in 2020 by a wide margin.
Yep.
Like everything else is a distant number two. Rob, I'm curious, what did you think about the script? And by that I mean Robert Meyer Burnett. I'm not at all excited about what Robot Shlomo thought about the script. So.
I loved it.
I'm not a fan, so
I loved it, and I was very curious about how the approach that they were going to take. I mean, obviously this particular, can we say what it is? This particular property has been made twice.
Yeah, I was just being facetious or whatever because you got in trouble for it.
Yeah, once for the movies, obviously in 1984, David Lynch's Dune, and then again in 2000 as a TV miniseries that was done in a very theatrical way.
It looked like film theater, so it was that theatrical because I was like thinking to my school play almost.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was an interesting choice because they didn't have the money to do it, obviously. And I think, when Lynch did his version, one of the things that hampered the movie was the visual effects. They're just not that great. And they couldn't do certain designs that were staples of Herbert's novels, things like the ornithopters. And the ornithopters are flying machines that literally flap their wings.
Have you seen the on-set pictures of the ornithopters?
Yeah.
My God, they look fantastic.
I mean, the thing that excites me in this day and age is authorship. And when you have a director, there are certain directors that we know when we're getting a film by them, we're really getting their vision because they're truly the authors. Tarantino's obviously one, Scorsese is obviously one, and Denis Villeneuve is Denis Villeneuve. He is also one, and Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 I've loved. I love Prisoners. I've loved all of his films, and I think after reading this script, and the script that I read should be, we should say that it was John Spates was credited as doing the latest rewrite, and it was Eric Roth and Denis Villeneuve himself who got credit on this version of the script, and it was a 2018 version. So it was probably, and it had production numbers on it. So it's probably pretty close to the version that they went into production with. And I just felt that it was a very adult, very respectful, very interesting, very character-driven version of the story. And they really played up. There were things that were missing that surprised me that we saw in the Lynch version that at first I was like, but then I can understand they're going to save things for the second film, which I think is very smart. And because what happens, it leads into that. But what they really did was they made the story, if this makes any sense, and I don't know, Andre, if you felt this way, but the idea of these two clans, they really played up that rivalry, and they talked about things like Canli, which is the blood feud that was established between these two families that goes back hundreds of years, and they really worked. It was really about these two families, and you got to know them. You especially got to know the Atreides way more than you ever did in either version that we've seen before, and I really loved how they developed all the characters in this version. And I think that's what they really needed to do. And that's why the movie is going to be, I think, so compelling, is because it's really a character-driven story as opposed to spectacle, even though there is that as well.
Right.
I will say that that's what that I not only loved about it, but what impressed me about it. This was a script that I was genuinely impressed with, because there is so much story going on. And that was the problem with the David Lynch movie, how to convey all of those things. I know exactly which scenes that you refer to as that you were puzzled by that they weren't in the script. Those were the scenes that David Lynch had to create in order to make sense of the story. So I think that you're probably referring to the scenes that were unique to the movie, but that weren't in the book. That had to be in the movie in order to just explain the whole thing.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the one with the Emperor in the beginning.
Yeah, the Padishah Emperor.
Yeah, exactly. If you return to the novel, then he's actually not in the first half of it at all.
Right.
He only appears later.
Well,
so
now
here it's closer to the novel, and they were still able to convey in a much more organic manner everything that needed to be conveyed easier than what Lynch was able to do.
Absolutely.
That impressed me. That really impressed me.
since this is at Warner Brothers, though, then instead of Universal, they don't have any rights to anything that were unique to the Lynch version then anyway, don't they? Or is it still under certain same copy?
No, I mean, I think that they would have to have acquired the novel, and it that's where everything comes from. Although, Denis Villeneuve has said that he liked a lot of the design. Like, there's some elements of the Lynch version that I think are really effective, like the still suits. And the still suits weren't exactly the way they were portrayed in the book, but I thought they looked great. And I thought that they allowed the actors to, you don't have their faces covered, although they'll probably do a little bit of that. But there is stuff. I mean, the production design in Lynch's Dune, I really, really liked. I didn't like the design of the effects, or I didn't like any of the ships or the vehicles. But that was because they couldn't really do what they wanted to do.
The set design in David Lynch's Dune is incredible.
It's incredible,
especially the Emperor's throne room.
Oh my God!
Pure golden room with the green floor, that opening scene when they come in with the alarms, when everyone is cleared out before the guild navigator comes in. To me, that's one of the most visually stunning scenes ever filmed. And what I've been told, as I said before, is that just like he did with Blade Runner 2049, he does anchor his movie a little bit in the Lynch movie. So we're not going to see an exact replica of any of the designs, but we'll see some inspiration of what worked. And that's something that has me very excited.
Yeah, and you... Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, did we even read this super chat, Rob? I don't think we did, because we got a few we got to get to here.
Yeah. We did, yeah.
We did read it? Okay, I couldn't remember if we actually read it. And then we do have a couple more here we do got to get to real super quick. Stargate 404, $5. Send us $5, Rob.
Saw news saying Bridge Bay is on a flop, given it underperformed, and an opening and came below Sonic. Does that mean, does it matter to Warner Brothers if it isn't a flop? Public perception, I guess, they want to win. They always want to win the public perception.
It's a disappointment. You can't call it a flop. It's not that territory yet, but it's a disappointment for sure.
And then we got another one here from Nelson Sharita.
$5 making a PC Bond is like making a war movie with no violence. It defeats the whole purpose of the genre. If you don't want Bond to be Bond, don't make it. That's exactly. Can't argue there.
Right. But yeah, Andre, you've been kind of on top of the whole Dune thing. Mr. H has been on top of it. And now, Robert, you did kind of your take on what you read or may or may not have read. And that got you in a little bit of trouble, did it?
Oh, yeah. No, I got a copyright strike against my YouTube channel. Now, to be fair, at first it wasn't a strike. And I thought because when you get a copyright notice on YouTube, it shows you where the offending material is. And the offending material was my opinion. Like, I hadn't read, I did end up reading some of the script at the end, but they didn't cite that. It was just my opinion about the script. And so I
loved it.
Yeah, that I loved it. And I had retyped the title page, because most scripts have they use 12-point Courier as the typeface. So I thought that I'd retyped that, and I used that as the graphic, and I thought they objected to that. So I went and took it off, because I record my shows in case I need to put them back up. And I covered that up. I went and edited that out. But then when I put it back up, they came back at me and struck my channel. So if I get 2 more copyright strikes against my channel, I can't do live streams and things like that.
You think you even lose your monetization possibly too?
No, yeah, not with the first. No,
strike. But after the third one, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting that they would do that, because Dune is based on a book. It's not like it's
right.
It's secret.
It's not like this is Star Wars or something.
No, it's not. And the book, the funny thing about the script is it skews really close to the novel. I mean, there's just not a lot of and it's a really well done adaptation of the novel. And I understand they have a huge investment in this. And as Andre will attest, it's only the first half of the book, unlike what David Lynch tried to do was cram that whole book into one thing. And
in his defense, though, if you look at the full extended version of the movie, he actually was kind of successful. And then it was Dino De Laurentiis that said that, no, you can only have 2 hours.
Right. And that's, I have the Japanese laser disc that has it's longer, and it has like this whole opening with artwork that they couldn't do and stuff like that. And yeah. So
have you seen the fan edit called the alternate version Redux or something along those lines?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those things. I mean, that would be I would love it if somebody would go in and find all the negative that was shot and do a real restoration. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it'd be great to see that. Yeah. And I believe that there's probably a lot better movie than we got. I mean, I still think I like the movie. It's not a great movie, but I do like it, and I like the things. I like the cast and all that. But it made this really interesting storyline. I think the biggest egregious crime that Lynch's Dune makes is that it's so inert. People literally just stand in the frame and talk, or they're not even talking. You just hear their thoughts. And one of the things I really liked about this new version of there's still scenes that everybody will remember, but it's moving all the time, and you really get a sense when you get to Arrakis, you really get to see more of the world, and you meet a lot more of the people, and you really get a sense of what's going on. And I'm really looking forward to the different realms that they create in the movie. Yeah. And also people, we live in a world where Lord of the Rings has come out since then, and we have Game of Thrones. So people understand when you're jumping back and forth between political factions and realms, and they're much more, audiences are much more adept and sure-footed when it comes to understanding what's going on in these realms. It's people aren't going to be like, I don't understand what's happening. People are going to they know more. So audiences now, we're 36 years away from Lynch's Dune, and no, even more than that. Yeah, 36 years away. And I think that audiences are just much more ready for this kind of movie now. I just hope it's a monster hit, because I don't quite understand. Did they film both movies at once?
No. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
They're in the process of writing the second movie right now, so that's not going to get the green light until they see how this one performs. That has me nervous.
That's scary, man.
That is very scary. But they have every confidence in it, because not only do you get the Dune, you will get the series Sisterhood of Dune about the Bene Gesserit.
Right.
And I know for a fact that there are plans of many, many more things, of expanding the universe way beyond just those two. But it all rides on the first movie being a hit. Because just like, remember with that Stephen King thing, like the Dark Tower, it was going to be like this movie and TV series and everything, and then the movie flopped, and then it all went to hell after that. This is the exact same thing. They have all these ideas and intentions, but it all rides on the first movie. For myself, I want to see the war against machines. And there's a chance that can happen in
the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah, the Butlerian Jihad, which is not what you think it is. Have you read the book?
Yeah.
I just finished it.
I mean, that wasn't real. I mean, look, the Kevin J. Anderson and the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson stuff, I kind of stayed away from, but I read that because I wanted to know, and I'm a huge fan of the 6 Herbert Dune novels. And one of the things that I think the people who haven't read the novel and maybe only know the movies, everybody thinks Paul Atreides is this great hero.
Exactly. That's the irony. That's the major irony.
Yeah, I mean, he turns into one of the biggest. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't read the books, but that's not exactly the way it turns out. And what happens post Dune? I mean, there's a bloodbath of cosmic proportions that follow, and billions and billions and billions of people get caught up in it, and it doesn't end well. But I would love to see all of those movies. I mean, I want to see Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune, because you get all the way up. It's such a rich universe. I would just like to see all of it committed to film. I just want to see what they would do.
Yeah, me too. I agree completely. But it all depends on the first movie. So we just have to hope that delivers, because if it doesn't, we're not even going to get part 2.
Yeah, what a bummer, man.
Heaven. Yeah. So that's the one thing that has me, like, several of the major characters, they haven't even been cast because they're not going to appear until movie number 2. And
well, yeah, like Fade Ralpha. People are like, who's going to play Fade?
Yeah, I wasn't about to say anything, but yeah, that would be one of them.
Oops, should I not say that? Lovely, lovely Fade. But, I mean, again, if you've read the book, and by the way, I think the casting, having read that script and knowing who's playing all those parts, oh my God, I can't wait to see this movie.
I have to say, like, the moment that I learned of Stellan Skarsgård in particular as Baron Harkonnen, I nearly fell off my chair.
Yeah,
I had like a visceral reaction to it, about the same as I had to Henry Rollins being in the He-Man series.
Speaking of, we're actually going to talk about that, so we might as well talk about it real quick.
Yeah, it has to be real quick because
I know you got to get going.
In a few hours.
We got Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe cast. Mark Hamill is going to be playing Skeletor. We got Lena Headey. We got Chris Wood, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and a few others. I know you and Mr. H Reviews talked about it a little bit earlier, Andre. So, yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm happy with this cast. Diedrich Bader is Randor, though. I was like, what? Yeah. Okay.
I have to say that this cast is so freaking stellar, amazing good. Words can't even describe it. I mean, Mark Hamill as Skeletor, how perfect is that?
Yeah, that's great. But Kevin Conroy's playing Merman when he should be Randor.
It's just so.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar, I'm not a big fan of, but Lena Headey, you're fine with. But yeah,
Lena Headey, she could be this Evelyn in a live action adaptation as well, which I hope that she's going to be. I wouldn't rule it out. But overall, I'm just so happy with this cast. I'm so excited for this series, and I especially then Henry Rollins as Triclops. How good hands is this in when you have someone that is going to get you Henry Rollins as Triclops? That just speaks volumes about the commitment and how into it the people behind this must be in order for this to happen.
Yeah, we got a $2 super chat from North American Ham Rammer. I love the inner dialogue. How much is lost without? They're talking about Dune, so that can take us back to...
Yeah, no.
Nothing is lost.
And there's really, there's nothing is lost. I mean, there's a few lines where people say some of that stuff like to themselves. Like there's one scene in particular where Lady Jessica is repeating something. And I loved it. I mean, I love the way, I like the inner dialogue in Dune as well. Like, you will know your ways as if born to them. And I mean, I'm like, you don't miss that in the script at all because you get it. It's just really well done.
Yeah. It's perfectly well done. When I read that script, I was impressed. I was genuinely impressed with the ingenuity that went into solving how to translate it to screen. And based on the script, and from what I've heard of people in the production, they've absolutely nailed it.
Oh, yeah. I thought so, too. And it's so smart. And not only that, it presupposes intelligence on the part of the audience as well. And they didn't lean in. They didn't throw in a bunch of superfluous action scenes. And there's so much court intrigue. I loved it. I can't wait to see this movie. I can't wait to see a trailer. It can't come soon enough.
And what do you think about the logo?
I love the logo. I think the logo is really cool. I mean, especially using a moon to for the bracket in Dune. I mean, again, it's clever, and it's funny. I had the pre-release poster for Lynch's Dune up, the one sheet with the 2 planets and the 2 moons, and then the Arrakis. That pre-release poster is beautiful. I had that up for so long when I was growing up. And I love that logo. Actually, I thought it was just terrific. It's very, very cool.
Me too. It impressed me so much, the simplicity and the sheer ingenuity of that design, by basically just having like these what looked like these, and just like inverting them, and you just have like one symbol and it's like just flipped around in different ways.
It's just really clever.
Put up, it's so clever. And by the way, I love that poster too, the pre-release poster. That's how I got into Dune, because I found like this old beaten up copy of a book that was a British reprint from the time when it was released. It had that poster. That's what got me into Dune to begin with.
Well, what I find really interesting is there's a lot of classic science fiction properties like the Foundation trilogy, or just Foundation, that is also like Dune. It began as an Isaac Asimov property, and that he wrote a number of books. Now it's expanded. The Foundation trilogy was one of my favorite. I read that book when I was in I think the 6th grade, and it was all 3 books, the 3 Foundation books in one hardcover that I got from the Science Fiction Book Club. And Apple TV is supposedly, I guess they're making that now.
I hope they are. I haven't heard anything for months about it.
I haven't either. But the fact that they're doing more, they're going in, and there's a book that I wanted to make into a movie that I was actually got bought by Matt Reeves, this book called Way Station that won the Hugo Award in 1963. It's a small, intimate story by Clifford Simak, and I really wanted to make that into a movie. And once I finished with this thing, Tango Shalom, it was the kind of thing I wanted to go after, because I figured, who's going to buy this book? And then, of course, they announced Matt Reeves' company bought it. And I was like, what? They're talking about making it an epic sci-fi movie. The whole point of it to me was that it doesn't have to be epic. You can make an epic science fiction movie for very little money with that book. And I love that book. But to see people now delving into the canonical works of great literary sci-fi that from the last 60 or 70 years, I think we're only going to get, as long as you've got talented filmmakers who, you have to have filmmakers that are passionate about this material to begin with, because it can't be a studio generated property that they find a director. You've got to have a director that the filmmakers have to want to make these things, because the studio regimes, that the gatekeepers that pick which movies are going to get made, they don't know. And movies like Dune, they require deft filmmakers who truly have a vision and know what it is they're going to be making.
And luckily, it appears we have that in Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
I get so much hassle for it.
I know you get so much shit for it. I hope this is one of those situations that's not like Blade Runner 2049, where it does well but doesn't do well enough to kick off a new franchise like that was trying to do. And then we got a $9.99 super chat, and we'll probably try and wrap things up since you got to go anyway, Andre. And I know Robert and I hopefully had a quick plan to shoot a little video for you guys. Hopefully we got enough time to do that yet tonight too. If not, Grendel fan 84 sent us $9.99. Go ahead and read it, Rob, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Is it just more, or am I the only one concerned that this may not wind up getting released? Smith has a notorious track record of having projects fall through at the 11th hour, talking about He-Man.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with that is, like, Clerks 3 was because one of the actors didn't want to do it at the last minute, and then they changed their mind, so that is happening. Like Mallrats was Stars dropped out at the last minute. So those kind of things are a little bit different than this. This is already like a done deal. He's just basically brought on as a showrunner for hire. This was a done deal before he was probably even brought on board, I'm guessing, right, Andre?
Oh, yeah, this is happening. This isn't falling apart. Like, this isn't his project. He's the showrunner, but this is happening with or without him.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that. Guys, with that, I really should be leaving, because I'm...
you got to be up for work here in a few hours. Yeah,
I have work in a few hours.
Well, we appreciate having you for what little time we have, and like I said, I think we're going to wrap this up so I can hopefully get that video recorded real quick with Robert tonight. So I want to thank everybody for dropping by and sticking with us for this hour and some change, and hopefully we'll see you again Wednesday here on Midnight's Edge After Dark. Go check out Mecha Random's channel, check out Robert Meyer Burnett's channel, and of course check out Andre's latest editorial as well.
Yeah, and everyone, I always like to say, especially check out Robert Meyer Burnett's channel. It's the most underrated channel on all of YouTube. Check out Midnight's Edge. All the rest of us, you get so much negativity because that's just who happens to leak stuff. So we get like the scoops and everything like that. We try to stay positive when it's possible, but that's not always positive. So not always possible, I mean. So after like some heavy doses of all of our videos, what you really need is some sunshine and positivity from Robert Meyer Burnett. So everyone go check that out.
Well, you've been pretty positive about Dune, though, I have to say.
I want to be positive. I am positive whenever there's reason to be
But
positive.
you hate everything. We hate everything, Andre. Quit being so positive.
Yeah, have to step
And of course, we got to say happy birthday to Mecha Random as well.
Happy birthday.
It was yesterday, but
yeah.
Belated happy birthday then.
Rob, give me some music.
Give me some music. Okay. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time.